back to my channel. My name is Katrin if you're new here, and if you've been around for my previous videos, thanks for coming back. So today's video is about the 2017 epic masterpiece of paranormal YA romance that is Fallen. If you've never heard of this film, don't worry. It wasn't very popular. There was no sequel. It wasn't very well received. And that's because it's not really good. But it's fun to watch, and I recently felt nostalgic enough to rewatch this. So here we are. So what awaits you? What can you expect from Fallen? It's basically Twilight, minus the vampires, minus the plot. And the paranormal beings are different, but the rest, pretty much the same. Oh, and there's a boarding school. But other than that, if you like Twilight, feel nostalgic for the Twilight era, this is your place to be. Okay, so a little bit of background information. Fallen, the film, is based off a book of the same title by Lauren Kate, Fallen, which is the first book in a 6-book series. So if you've read them, how does it end? Like, I want to know, because I remember I haven't read the series, especially when it came out. So it came out in 2009 onwards. But my cousin has read them, and she told me something that got me really intrigued. So I picked up the audiobooks like 2 years ago, something like that, and I didn't like them. Didn't like them at all, and I don't remember a single thing. So if you've read them, if you do remember what happens in the sequels, let me know, and also let me know how it ends. I'm curious. I'm very curious. I don't know why there was never a sequel to the film. Because, like, to be honest, nothing in this film happens. Like, nothing happens except for the last 10 minutes. So, get ready for that. So, the film starts with a prologue that is told to us from a voiceover. And we later learn that the character who's narrating this prologue is the teacher character that I will show you, don't worry. So, the first line is, "Before there was light, there were angels." Did you guess that the paranormal beings in a film called Fallen would be angels? I guess so. Okay, so, and then it talks about, like, the voice talks about the epic war between heaven and hell that ensued because Lucifer, one of the angels, rebelled against God, which God obviously didn't like, so he made the angels choose a side, whether to fight for God or to fight for Lucifer. And all of the angels did choose a side, except for one. One rogue angel decided that neither heaven nor hell were worth fighting for, but the only thing worth fighting for was love. So he just refused to pick a side. And that resulted in him falling from grace. This is why he's called the Fallen. And it turns out he wasn't the only one who didn't choose a side. He was the only one who was punished, but he wasn't the only one who was banished from both heaven and hell onto earth. So there are some angels who walk among humans called the Fallen, and they have to wander the earth until this one rogue angel finally chooses a side to fight for, or until he finds love and lets it go. That's basically the plot of the film. So we could end this video here, but no, we're just about to begin. So let me show you our main character. Our main character is Lucinda. This one. Lucinda Price, also called Luce. And if you remember that names are important, you know that Lucinda or Luz is a variation of the Latin word for light, right? So remember, before there was light, there were angels. And who are the other guys in the picture? We have Cam, which is short for Cameron, and Daniel, okay? So have a look at these two. And yes, this is Jeremy Irvin. So he went into this film with great expectations that weren't met, I guess. Okay, so Lucinda, Cam, and Daniel. According to the X-ray information on Amazon Prime, his last name is Briel, and it was like Cam Briel. That sounds angelic. And yes, it does. So apparently this is a form of the name Gabriel, who you might know is an archangel. And Gabriel, translated, means something like God is my strength, right? Daniel over here also has God in his name because Daniel means God is my judge. And you're like, which of these guys is the fallen angel? The rogue angel? Have a guess. It's not that hard. Also, did you notice his little leather jacket? It's important. So, the film basically starts just like Twilight with Lucinda in the car, right? So Lucinda and her parents are on the way to drop Lucinda off at the Sword and Cross Academy. This is a boarding school for troubled teenagers. So we're like, what is going on with Lucinda? We don't yet know. This film is basically Lucinda uncovering her trauma. So, baby steps, right? So, Lucinda and her parents are in the car. They arrive at the Sword and Cross Academy, and I feel like the only reason to really watch the film are the vibes. Like, the vibes are quite cool. I like this. If this were a book and publishing had to market it, it would say that this film has dark academia vibes. Because the Sword and Cross Academy is basically a gothic mansion that is shrouded in mist, surrounded by the woods, and very isolated. Phones are not allowed, no technology. There are computers, but you know, other than that, they are isolated from the rest of the world. And yeah, I think like the setting is quite fine. They have statues and gargoyles all over the roof. Like it looks eerie, looks a little creepy. I liked it. I like the vibes. I think that's cool. So Lucinda dropped off by her parents. Her parents immediately get back on the road. They just like literally just get her out of the car, get her baggage out of the car, and like her luggage, maybe baggage too, her luggage out of the car. Her mom hugs her goodbye, gives her a little wrapped gift for her birthday that is coming up. So it's not explicitly said, but I think it's her 17th birthday because it's a YA story. It has to be her 17th birthday. And then the parents take off. They're absent, just like most parents in YA stories, but they're actually quite nice parents. I think they do come back for a scene later, and they seem like they genuinely care for their daughter, which is nice, right? Okay, so Lucinda gets into the school and meets Randy. Randy didn't get a picture because he's not that important, and I honestly think he's a bit annoying. So Randy, I'm not quite sure what his actual function in the film is. Is he some kind of headmaster, or what is? I don't know. What's Randy's profession? I don't know. So Randy explains the rules of the Sword and Cross Academy because they're very strict. As I said, no cell phones, no dangerous items are allowed, such as blades or any other kind of weapon. And you're like, makes sense for a school, but okay. Lucinda has to turn in her phone, I said that, and Randy explains some more very strict rules, you know. I'm not even sure what they were anymore. Doesn't matter. So what is important is that it conveys that, you know, there is something going on with this school. Like, why would teenagers bring knives to school? And then we learn. Oh no, we learn that a little bit later, but we'll get there. So, because Lucinda's like, sure, why would anybody do this? Bring dangerous stuff to school? And then a police car arrives at the entrance of the school. And who gets out of the car? Cameron. In his little leather jacket, right? So, the visual language in this film, because Cameron is constantly wearing black. He's the one with the dark, long hair, the leather jacket. He's the bad guy. The bad boy, right? And in contrast to him, we have Daniel, the blonde, angelic Daniel, who always wears this weird coat that feels a little bit out of time, but he always wears this coat over a white shirt. So we know immediately, we know. So Cameron is escorted back to the school. Randy's like, oh, sure, there you are again. What did you do this time? And he needs someone else to take care of Lucinda because he has to take care of Cam now, right? Cam starts staring at Lucinda. This is also why this film feels so similar to Twilight, because most of the romance is conveyed entirely through stares. Intense staring, right? Cam stares at Lucinda. Lucinda stares at Cam. Lucinda and Daniel stare at each other. Daniel and Cam stare at each other. Like, lots of stares. Like, longing glances. Very romantic, right? Okay, so Lucinda's kind of mesmerized by Cam, the bad guy. So, who did Randy ask to show Lucinda around? Ariane, right? So, played by Daisy Head. So, Ariane is very happy to oblige and show Lucinda around. She's not the only one, because there's also Gabrielle. Yes, Gabriel. I didn't look up what Ariane means, but maybe somebody knows this and can let us in on this. So, Ariane and Gabrielle, they're quite nice to Lucinda. Like, you can tell because she's the blonde girl wearing a lot of white. Like, as I said, visual language, right? Okay, so Ariane and Lucinda go up the stairs, and Ariane lets us know what the whole deal of the Sword and Cross Academy is. And that is, it's not just a boarding school, but it's basically also a psychiatric ward for troubled teenagers. And this is why I say that it didn't age particularly well. So this school hosts teenagers with mental health issues, addiction problems, and so on. And the depiction of mental health is questionable at best, I would say. So we don't really see a lot of characters with mental health issues, because basically we only have the main characters, and they're all fine, right? Because they don't live on the 3rd floor, as we learned from Ariane. Only the teenagers who need, let's say, intense care are on the 3rd floor. But guess who lives on the 3rd floor? Lucinda. So we're like, okay, sure. Yeah. As I said, I wouldn't say the depiction of mental health is very good in this film. I don't want to get too much into this, because this is a topic for a different video. But I would be curious if the TV show would make this any better. Does make this any better, because from what I've seen in the trailer, it looks worse, to be honest. But, you know, okay. So, Lucinda goes into her room, has this very depressing shot of her in the empty bedroom. It's very bleak, basically. It looks like a nunnery a little bit. So, like, the vibes, you know, the vibes. Okay. As Lucinda is in her room by herself, she hears some flickering sounds, and it's basically a moth that is just trapped in the light bulb. So the moth just flies against the light all the time, and the lights flicker. But Lucinda feels like something else is happening, or she reacts like something else is going to happen, and then in the corner of the room there appears some kind of black misty cloud with lightning in it. And Lucinda's like, oh my god, not again. And you're like, what is this? What is this? So we get the feeling that she has seen this misty cloud before. Right? But we don't yet know what it is. Until the next scene. We learn, the next scene is Lucinda and her psychiatrist in the psychiatrist's office. And the psychiatrist asks her about her hallucinations, her visions. And we're like, maybe that's what the cloud was. And he offers her some blue pills that she has to take. He's like, yeah, and if you take them, all these hallucinations go away. And you can leave. You just need to take your medication and you'll be fine. And Lucinda, because she's not like other girls, she's like, no. I don't need medication. Again, the depiction of mental health. I mean, this is a paranormal romance, so we know that she's right. She's not making these appearances up. But, yeah, you know, what's the message? Right? She's like, no, I'm not taking these medications. I would rather be trapped in this school and be myself than pretend to be someone else just to belong somewhere. This is what she says, right? And I'm like, okay, so she'd rather be herself. She's headstrong, strong main character. Not so much throughout the rest of the movie, but with this, she's like, no, I'm not letting anyone force me to do something I don't want to. Good for her. So, what happens next? Let me check my notes. Oh yeah, okay. Then we cut to Gabrielle Ariani and another guy. And that guy is, where is he? Roland. They all seem to be friends. Like Roland, like I'm not quite sure what's the deal with Roland, but he seems pretty nice actually, right? So Roland seems like a cool guy, but then he tells Gabrielle and Ariane that they just need to get used to the thought that Lucinda is about to go up in flames anytime soon. And we're like, Roland, who is hallucinating? Like, what is he doing? Like, we don't know. We don't know what he's talking about. Like, do we? But, okay. So, like, okay. Something is up with Lucinda. Something's happening. And this is super annoying in the film. So, basically, there's a lot of scenes between Roland and these two, or, like, maybe sometimes Cam is in the picture, or someone else whom we haven't come to yet. And they always talk about Lucinda as if there was something that we all need to know. Like, they're clearly leaving out information information just for us to be like, what is it? What is it with Lucinda? But it's so obvious at the same time. You're like, okay. Okay, so Lucinda is in the corridors. Oh no. This is when we meet another character. Okay, so after her session with the psychiatrist, Lucinda goes to the library to get her school books. And whom do we meet in the library? Miss Sophia, played by Jolie Richardson. Who else grew up watching 101 Dalmatians and the Tudors? Love her. Okay, so Miss Sophia, who is the teacher of religious philosophy, by the way. This is why her name is Miss Sophia. Okay, so she's at the library, and she's very happy to meet Lucinda. She's like, so lovely to meet you. She had already gathered all of Lucinda's books, except for one, and asked Lucinda to go and get that herself. Lucinda's like, sure, I'm going to get my book. And conveniently or coincidentally, the corner in which this book is to be found is also where Daniel is napping. So we have seen Daniel before. When Lucinda arrived at the school, like he was standing behind a window staring at Lucinda. What else would he do, right? So he's napping on a couch, and he has been drawing. Before he fell asleep, he was drawing. So one of his pieces of drawing chalk just fell to the ground, and Lucinda is a little creep in this film. Like the romance is very 2000s. Very 2000s. So Lucinda just stands next to the couch and stares at Daniel till he wakes up. And obviously he's a little bit freaked out by this girl just staring at him. So he stares back at her. Very romantic, lots of staring. He rushes up and basically flees the library. And Lucinda's like, no, you forgot your chalk. But he's perfectly fine leaving it. And it's like, read the room, Lucinda. Yeah. So he runs off. And we're like, what is it? What is it between these two? Because she feels like she's seen him before. And that is conveyed through, like, yeah, we get this. Like, she also talks to other people about that. So she thinks they've met before. You know, there's something between the two of them. It's not just insta-love, but it's like soulmates, you know? Before there was fated mates. Oh, maybe these two invented it. Who knows? Okay, so after Daniel just rudely left Lucinda alone in the library, she walks down a corridor all by herself, like the corridor's empty, and then she hears a sound. Turns around, and there's a figure standing at the end of the hall. She's like, okay. Continues walking, and then we hear the sound, which we know is basically wings flapping, but Lucinda doesn't get that. So she turns around, and just behind her, an inch away from her, stands Molly. Molly, as you can see, very villainous character. Dyed hair, piercings, dark lipstick. She's clearly evil. Clearly. Because everybody with piercings is evil. Oh, this film is a bit cliche, to be honest. Like, especially her character is super cliche. And then Molly just randomly starts attacking Lucinda, right? It feels very random. It's not super random, because she's like, oh, I hate you so much. you feel like you're so much better than the rest of them. You know, she starts insulting Lucinda, but Lucinda doesn't know what's up. She's like, what's your problem, Molly? I'll move you a little bit to the side so you can see her better. Is that better? It's like, what's your problem, Molly? And they're basically getting into a fight until Randy comes to tear them apart. He's like, no. Molly, of course. Rogue Molly. Part of the fight. But Lucinda, as punishment, she has to pick up trash from the yard. Feels very much youth correction center. Okay, so, but because Lucinda is very upset, she has to go to the girls' bathroom. And there she meets Pen, also known as Pennyweather something, I forgot her name. Her backstory is that her parents are not so lovely than Lucinda's parents because they just wanted her to be out of the picture, which is why they basically left her in the academy. And it's like, poor Pen. She deserves so much better. We love Pen. So, part of the Pen fan club. We love Pen. Pen is a little awkward in the beginning, but she's very lovely throughout the rest of the film. So these two become friends because girls in bathrooms bonding over Mean Girls, unbreakable. This is how you make friends, right? Okay, so these two quickly become friends. They also meet in Pen's room to study and stuff, so their friendship is very lovely. It's a bit one-sided because it's always about Lucinda, but Pen is clearly the best friend character, right? So, yeah. There's not much in the cards for her other than that. Okay, so then we get our first, and basically like the only class we ever see in this entire film is Miss Sophia's class on religious philosophy. And guess what's the topic of this week's class? Like Lucinda's first week in class. What's the topic? The war. The one war of the angels. And she basically starts telling us the same thing as in the prologue, because it was her who narrated the prologue. So she repeats that. Just like, yeah, there was this war and the angels, and you know, this one angel who didn't make a choice. And the camera cuts to all of these other characters who clearly have heard this before. Daniel, not interested at all. Instead, he's just drawing. He's very creative. He's not like other boys because he draws. And it's so obvious. It is so obvious when Miss Sophia talks about this one fallen angel who didn't make a choice. And Lucinda obviously is very interested in this one angel for whatever reason. Like, I'm not sure. But she asks a lot of questions, and Miss Sophia's like, didn't you learn that in church service? She's like, I never went to church. My parents aren't religious. And Miss Sophia's like, what? And does that mean you're not baptized? And no, Lucinda's not baptized. And I kid you not, the entire plot evolves around the fact that Lucinda is not baptized. And I'm also like, is this kind of, you know, Christian propaganda? I'm not sure. Right, so Lucinda not baptized. That's a game changer. All of them are like, what? She's not baptized? What? So like, Interesting. Okay, so the next scene. Lucinda again is in the yard picking up trash because we remember after her little fight with Molly, that's the punishment. So she's picking up trash as the cool kids walk by. The cool kids, Daniel, Gabriel, Ariane, Roland. Molly is not invited. Like, poor Molly. Like, no wonder she's so mean. because everybody excludes her. It's kind of mean. Like, this really is. Also, Cam isn't around. Like, we don't know what Cam is doing for the moment. But Lucinda's in the yard. The others walk by. And Lucinda, obviously, longingly looks at Daniel. It's like, she's entranced. And then, for some reason, she looks up at the roof of the school, right? And there's a huge angel statue. Again, the visual language. Like, this whole film, not subtle. Not subtle. Miss Sophia, lesson in subtlety, no. The angel statue. Also, it's a bit on the nose. Like, everything is a bit on the nose. But, okay. So, there's this angel statue on the roof. And suddenly, it just drops. And it's about to crush Lucinda. But what happens? Daniel, basically Edward 2.0, rushes to shield Lucinda from this fallen angel crushing her. Right. So they touch. And you know what happens when he touches her? She gets a vision. She sees a girl in the snow and a boy. And we don't yet really see that, but we know that it's these two. They're in the snow, wearing clothes from a different era. We're like, what is this? And Lucinda's like, something's up, you know? They're getting into a carriage, you know, very romantic. And Daniel, who, like, there are lots of, like, not lots of scenes, but it happens more than once, that Daniel is basically lying on top of Lucinda. I mean, yes, he saved her life in this instance. I was like, okay, also a bit too much, right? So, he's lying on top of her. She's having this vision about the girl and the boy in the snow. Daniel rushes back up and takes off. Because he knows what he's got to do. He's read the Twilight books. He knows the script. So he's like, taking off. Lucinda, absolutely baffled, is like, what is wrong with this boy? Yeah, that's the question. What's wrong with you, Daniel? He's so troubled. He's so tormented. Like, Jeremy Irvin, like, maybe you can see this in the picture. Like, his face, he looks as if he were in pain, like, the entire time. like Edward when Bella sits next to him. Basically this. Because it's so terrible, you know, to be close to the girl you like. Dramatic love. Okay, so he rushes off. Lucinda doesn't understand why, but okay. She gets back with Pen. They're doing homework. Pen tells her about her terrible parents. It's very sad. Again, poor Pen. She deserves more. So much more. And then, oh yeah, I forgot Cam. Like, when the angel statue almost crushed Lucinda to death, who was standing at the window looking out? Cam. So like, did he do that? Like, he's such a red herring. Just because of the leather jacket, you're like, nah. Okay, so Cam is, for some reason, just sulking. He's sitting at the window and just looking out. And who comes by? Molly. And Molly wants to tease Cam, apparently. So she's like, well, is Cam in love? And you're like, why did she think that? Like, what did we miss? Nothing. Obviously, Molly is talking about Lucinda. And if you're like, wait, did they have a conversation that I didn't mention? No. No. So Cam is terribly in love with Lucinda for whatever reason. And Molly obviously picked up on this. Because she knows more than we do. We're like, how did she get that? I don't know. So, Cam, obviously dreaming of Lucinda. And what is it? Oh yeah. Molly goes like, don't forget who you work for. And we're like, who he works for? Maybe it means something that these two are arranged on Cam's side and these two are Team Daniel. Maybe. Like, who does he work for? The leather jacket tells it all, right? I think we get this. I think we get this. So, Cam is in love. I don't know why. I guess it's true love. I imagine it a little bit like that scene from Frozen when Anna tells Elsa that... Oh, does she tell Elsa? She tells somebody that she wants to marry this guy she just met once. She's like, it's true love. This is Cam. Cam's like, true love. And we're like, okay, go for it. Okay. Lucinda, on the other hand, is not too interested in Cameron. Poor Cam. From, like, again, I don't remember the books, but I have read over the Wikipedia entry, and from what I gather, Cam is Lucinda's first love interest in the books. So if you have read the book, and you're like, no, that makes sense, because she liked Cam first, that's where it comes from. But the film doesn't really give us much reason to believe that Lucinda is interested in Cam romantically. But, yeah. Because Lucinda is basically, running after Daniel. It's like, Daniel, I need to talk to you. Daniel doesn't want to talk. And she's like, no, it's very important. I think we've met before. And you're like, this is the lamest way to talk to your crush. Like, have we met before? Because Daniel's like, no. Says no, I do think we have met. Daniel's like, no. He's very insistent on that they've never met before, but Lucinda doesn't believe him. She's like, no. And it's like, sure, like, we know that there is something between these two, but like, she doesn't know that at this point. So it's like, girl, just get a grip. Now, okay. So Daniel's like, no, and he just stalks off. Like, that's his move throughout the entire film. He basically just leaves all the time, right? Cam, for some reason, waits for Lucinda in front of the school building when she is about to walk to class, and he has 2 cups of coffee to go, and he's like, do you want to have breakfast with me? And this is the first ever interaction between these two, except for the stairs at the beginning, right? So they're like, let's have a conversation. She's like, no, I have to go to class. It's like, no. No, class is not important. This is how we know that he's the bad boy, because not only does he wear a leather jacket, but also he skips class. Rebel. Absolute rebel. And they're having the little breakfast in front of a classroom window. So you're like, the teachers clearly don't care. Okay. So she has a sip of the coffee and it's like, this is the best coffee ever. It's like, well, I stole this from the teacher's room. I was like, oh my god. What a troublemaker. Stole coffee. And also Lucinda, not like the other girls, because she's like, this is good coffee. She recognizes good coffee. I would never. But yeah, this is why Lucinda is the main character, not me. So that's amazing. Good for them. They're bonding over coffee. And when he says like he stole this from the teacher's room, she's like, you're such a rebel. And it's like, okay, I guess. Like, again, peak 2000s, early 2010s, Yeah, it's fine, right? Today's readers of dark romance were like, hold my coffee, right? Okay. And they have a little chat about breaking the rules, because he's a rule breaker. And then he reaches over Lucinda to grab something from the little bag of baked goods or whatever he brought for breakfast. And he comes very, very close to her face. Close enough to kiss her. But he doesn't. But it's as if he wanted to tease Lucinda into kissing him. Or, I'm not sure. Like, this is supposed to be a romantic tension, but it feels a little cringy. But, young love. So, I guess it's always awkward. Right. Okay, so then the bell rings and their little date is over. Very sad. But Cam's like, how about you come to Roland's party tonight? Is it Roland? And Lucinda's like, amazing, yeah, sure. Because she's never been to a party before. She's never been to Roland's party before, because apparently Roland's parties are legendary, right? Because when she and Penn later get ready for the party, she's like, I can't believe I'm going to one of Roland's parties. And it's like, you've been at the school for like a week. What have you heard about Roland's parties? They're amazing. They're amazing. But remember, like, this is a very isolated school and they don't have cell phones. So the bar is low. Yeah, it's lovely. Right. Okay, so the next scene. By the way, I mean, I'm going through the entire film, and when you feel like, this feels a little bit disconnected, like it feels like there's one thing, then there's suddenly something else, and it's not really like leading up to the next scene. This is exactly what the film is. It feels a little bit like as if pieces were just slammed together. Okay, it feels a bit disconnected. But the next scene is sports class. And since this school is not like other schools, their sports class is not like, I don't know, playing soccer or whatever. No, it's fencing. Again, something that didn't age well. Lucinda asking Penn, like, is it a good idea to give teenagers on medication weapons and teach them how to use them? I was like, sure there's a reason for that, maybe. But okay, so they're all fencing. Lucinda first fences against Gabrielle. Like, Gabrielle is very sweet. Like, there's nothing much to say about Gabrielle. Poor Gabrielle, she's so unimportant for the plot, so unimportant. But she's there, right? Okay. So they fence, nothing happens. Her next fencing partner, though, is Molly. And Molly, we know, doesn't like Lucinda, so she really tries to get at her. And the teacher has to intervene again. So it's like, Molly, again, get a grip, girl. She's just mean for the sake of being mean. And we technically know that there's something, with Lucinda, but like she doesn't remember for reasons. They're like, just Molly. But also, she's been trapped on Earth for millennia. Like, no wonder her mood is not the best. Right? It's fine. Okay, so after fencing Molly, the next fencing partner Lucinda has to face is none other than Daniel. Like, okay. And while they fence against each other, a new vision comes to Lucinda. It's the two of them fencing against some vagabonds, and it looks like musketeery, like they're in costumes, like musketeer time. So like, what is this? Why is she always in different eras? Like, if you can combine these hints, which Lucinda can't, you're like, I think we get this now, like the whole Catholic thing. Yeah, I think you get there. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we'll get there. Don't worry if you haven't caught up on it yet. So Lucinda and Daniel fencing. Lucinda having this hallucination, vision, or memory, maybe. Like, she falls to the ground. Daniel again lands on top of her. It's like, boy, for someone who doesn't want to be close to Lucinda, you are very, very close. Suspiciously often. You're like, he's like, oh, is anything wrong with you? Like, he probably thought he hurt her or something. Because in the vision, hallucination, memory, Lucinda's stabbed by one of these vagabond musketeers, right? And dies. Very tragic. Daniel maybe has the same vision, hallucination, memory while they're fencing, right? So Lucinda is like, maybe he lied to me. Maybe there's more between the two of us. Yeah. We'll see. While Lucinda, after sports class, because obviously it ends here, right? So Lucinda and Penn have to get changed after sports class. It's so creepy, like, I have to mention this, but it is a bit cringy. So the girls' changing room has a window, and through this window they can see Daniel, who for some reason is standing in front of the window with no shirt on. And Lucinda was looking at him like, oh. And Ben was like, oh, you really have a crush, don't you? And we're like, oh, you know, teenagers. But what is he doing there without a shirt? Like, what is it? Where is the boys' changing room? Like, yeah, doesn't matter. And then Lucinda is like, yeah, I feel like I've met Daniel before. She tells Penn because they're best friends. Because, you know, they bonded in the bathroom. So, yeah. Girls talk. She's like, I think we've met before. Feels like I've met him before. And I was like, yeah, you know, there was something weird about these people, like this group of friends. There's something weird about them. So I was like, what are you talking about? And then Penn's like, you know, I know it's a little bit uncool, but I also work in the administration office of the school. So I conveniently have access to everyone's student file. And of course, I read them because she's nosy. She's not just nerdy, but also nosy. She read everyone's files. And guess what? There wasn't much to read because they were basically empty. They're like, mysterious. And it's also like, such a bad cover. Like, if you're undercover in this academy, just make something up for the files. Like, how can these files be empty? Anyway, so Lucinda's like, that is mysterious. We have to investigate further. They don't. But we know that there's something with these people, something up with them. All of them, obviously. And also Miss Sophia, right? Because every one of them, like Roland, Molly, Cam, Daniel, Gabrielle, Ariane, Miss Sophia, they all came to the school like a few months ago, and nobody knows where they came from. So like, okay, then it's party time, because Roland's party is up, right? Lucinda and Penn are very excited to go to the party, and who greets them at the party? Not Roland, who's the host, no, Gabrielle, because poor Gabrielle needs some lines in the movie. So she's like, oh, you look so cute, both of you. Like, she's so nice. She's very, very sweet. Like, this is her whole personality. She's just sweet. But Lucinda turns to Penn and is like, is it okay if I hate her? It's like, no. Why would you hate her? And Penn's like, why would you hate her? Because she's so perfect and blonde. And she kisses the boy you have a crush on. Because Gabrielle kisses Daniel on the cheek. And the intent is that we think, or Lucinda thinks, and therefore we think, that there is something happening between these two, that maybe they have history. They don't. Right? This is another red herring. Like, again, they're basically exiled on Earth for millennia. They're just like found family. It's quite sad. Anyway, okay. Then Cam approaches Lucinda again. It's like, what does a girl like you do at the Sword and Cross Academy? Because you clearly don't have mental health issues. Like, the things he mentions are drugs, vandalism, depression, and nymphomania. And we're like, that is a very interesting school. And yes, why is Lucinda there? Oh yeah, because the judge, something happened which we don't yet know, and the judge decided that she has to go to the school because she refuses to take medication, right? So she has to be basically locked up in the school. Like, what the others are doing there, we don't know, because Penn has no, like, she doesn't need psychological care. Like, we don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just for the plot. It's just for the plot. And then Lucinda, in response to Cam being like, what got you here? It's like, well, maybe I'm not as innocent as you think. She's very flirty. Cool. Also flirty, Penn. She flirts with a guy who didn't get a picture because I forgot. So there's this guy, what's his name? Todd. There's this guy, Todd, who starts flirting with Penn and who will come back later, but his role, he's just a character to do something and then something else. So yeah, Todd didn't get a picture. Sorry, Todd. Sorry. So Lucinda feels like she's the third wheel, right? And she, for some reason, goes to... Oh yeah, this party, by the way, the party scene is the woods, right? Because there's nothing else around the school. So they're having a party in the woods, which means that there are some kegs of beer and there's a little fire going, you know, very cozy. Somebody's roasting marshmallows or something. So that's the party, the legendary party. And again, it's like, girl, just talk to someone, because Molly shows up, and guess what? She again starts harassing Lucinda, and she does so by grabbing one of the logs of wood that are in the fire and just like so we're just waving it in Lucinda's direction, also putting the dry leaves on the forest ground on fire. And then she's like, you remember Trevor? And Lucinda's like, how do you know about Trevor? And we're like, who's Trevor? He wasn't mentioned yet. So Molly's like, you remember Trevor? The guy you killed? Lucinda does remember Trevor. And we're like, she killed someone? Okay, maybe that's why she's locked up in this facility. Molly's just being mean. She's like, Trevor, he was such a pretty boy. Of course, that was until he met you. And we're like, okay, I mean, the boy's dead, so that's all you have to say about this, but okay. And obviously, the other two like the other cool kids have to intervene because they know that Molly is up to no good. So Cam comes rushing in, grabs Molly, tries to talk some sense into her. Doesn't work. Daniel also shows up. Ariane also shows up. And she offers to take Lucinda back to the school, right? But Lucinda's like, no, I can do this by myself. Meanwhile, Cam and Molly are discussing Molly's behavior, right? Again, Cam not happy about Molly. It's like, what are you doing? Stop doing this. And Molly, again, it's like, maybe she has like a fifth sense or something. No, sixth. A fifth, yeah. A sixth sense, because she's like, well, poor Cam, teasing him. Poor Cam always wants the things that he cannot have. And we're like, okay. She's clearly just here to create chaos. And what we've learned from Miss Sophia's not so subtle lesson in church philosophy is that the person who thrives on chaos is Lucifer. Right, so she's like, you always want something you cannot have. And then, I'm not quite sure, I haven't watched the film enough and you can't see it in the picture because Molly's wearing a scarf, but in this scene she suddenly wears some kind of, a tattooed snake around her neck, and Cam touches this snake, or looks as if he touches it, and the snake just convulses, so it looks as if Molly were choking on this snake tattoo, right? The snake tattoo that basically just came to life to choke Molly. So we're like, did Cam do this? I think he did. It's never explained. I guess he has some magical powers, though we don't know, right? Okay, so Lucinda's on her own in the forest, walking back to the school. And again, these weird clouds, these black clouds, they basically start chasing her, and she has a breakdown in the woods. Because these clouds don't leave her alone. I was like, yeah, poor girl. And then we get a flashback, a very short flashback of her caught in a fire. And we're like, we're getting closer to what happened in the past. The next scene is her with her therapist. And the therapist is like, have you seen your shadows again? Shadows are her clouds, so she calls them the shadows. And she's like, no. Still refusing to take her medication. And that's the last we see of the therapist. At first I was like, maybe he's an evil therapist or anything. No. He's just there for us to know that she doesn't believe in medication. Okay. So she lies to him, says no shadows. I mean, we've seen them 2 seconds ago, so she's clearly lying. And then she goes for a swim, because there's a swimming pool in the school. And she starts, having her, swimming her, rounds, And then, suddenly, she's alone in the pool. Everyone else has left. Everyone except for Daniel. It's like, Daniel, if you don't want to be alone with Lucinda, don't get in the pool when she's the only one swimming there. But he's swimming. Then he gets out of the water. They lock eyes again. And since they're swimming, again, he's not wearing a shirt, but what he's wearing is a necklace. And on the necklace, there is a locket. with angel wings on it. Again, it's so obvious and a bit kitschy, to be honest. Well, so Lucinda's like, "What's the necklace?" And then she touches it, and the moment she touches it, she again has a vision, hallucination, memory scene where she looks as if she were dressed in like a Regency gown, or not a Regency, a little later, like one of those fancy gowns, like a Victorian gown. He's also there, also dressed very, very nicely. She gives him the locket, and then they take a picture, or have their picture taken. So there's one of these like early photographers with, I don't know what's the word for it, it doesn't matter. So somebody takes their picture, right? She's like, I had a vision again. And it's like, no, can't be. And then he takes off again, because that's what he does. Like, I'm like, ugh, girl, maybe he's just not that into you. I mean, we know that he is, and he's just repressing his feelings, which is very romantic, but also so annoying. Like, oh god. So he swims off, and he swims butterfly style, which looks like angel wings, right? Again, the visual language is quite beautiful. It's a bit on the nose, but beautiful, right? So then when Penn and Molly meet again, Penn and Lucinda meet again, Lucinda's like, I don't want to talk to you. Penn doesn't get why. Just like, well, Molly knew about Trevor. And guess who's the only person who has access to my student file? Did you tell Molly? Obviously, Penn didn't. Like, so we don't know where Molly knows that from, but she just knows a lot of things. Like, she knows Cam's heart. She knows Lucinda's background. Maybe she's the smartest girl in the room, we don't know. So they make up. It's a bit unnecessary that they had a fight over this, but we're like, okay, so what is it with Trevor? And this is how we learn about Trevor, because Lucinda finally confides in Penn. What's the backstory about Trevor, you ask? Well, so Lucinda, who was so excited to go to Roland's party, has a trauma when it comes to parties. So I'm like, why is she excited to go to a party? But maybe that's a way to cope with it. It's fine. So, in the past, Lucinda was at a school party with other people, and there was this one guy who, like, everybody had a crush on. Trevor. Welcome to the last picture. This is Trevor. I mean, obviously that's not his role, but the actor who plays Trevor also plays Harald Sigurdsson in Vikings Valhalla. And I forgot about this. So when I rewatched the film, I was like, oh my god, what is Harald doing here? So I had to print his picture, because also I have met, like not really met, but I have seen this man at Comic-Con, and yeah, I like to watch, like to look at the picture, so it's fine. So Harald Sigurdsson, right, aka Trevor, is also at the party. He doesn't have a beard, he's a bit younger, right, but we recognize him. And like, he's the cool boy everybody has a crush on. He's never talked to Lucinda, but he invites her to go to this like lodge house with him. Like, also this party is in the woods, because all the cool kids have parties in the woods. I've never been to a party in the woods, which probably says it all, right? So he's like, shall we take off? Shall we, have a little privacy? And then they make out in this little lodge. And while they're making out, which, by the way, again, also, it is a product of its time, but it's like, it feels very uncomfortable to watch, because like, she, on the one hand, wants to make out with him because he's the cool boy everybody has a crush on, but also he's never talked to her before, he's never been very nice to her, and it's like this blurry consent between the two of them that you're like, is it consensual? Does he pressure her into things? It's uncomfortable to watch. You're like, Harald, no, not cool. Right? So while they're making out, the clouds, the shadows show up again. And she's like, oh no, are you sure we're alone in this lodge? And he's like, of course. Not stopping. He's like very uninterested in her feelings, which is like, well, Trevor, not cool. And she's like, no, but what are these weird clouds in the corners? And we ask the same question. We're like, what is happening? Because again, there are some lightnings, like lighting up in this cloud. And you're like, what is this? And suddenly, the whole lodge is on fire. Like out of nowhere, everything is burning. It's like an inferno. It's like, okay. And she can hardly get out, but she gets out. Trevor doesn't. It's like, well, somebody's burning in hell. Okay, so Trevor's dead. Lucinda responsible for his death. For some reason, she thinks she's responsible, but at the same time, it's like they were making out when the fire started. So how is she supposed to do this? We don't know, but she feels responsible, right? This is her trauma, right? And we get that. Pen, the good friend that she is like, that wasn't your fault. Like, he's dead, sure, that's sad, but you didn't kill him, and I won't have any of this. Pen is a good one. We love her, right? Okay, but this is why Lucinda is in this psychiatric ward, right? Because the judge decided that she cannot be in a public school anymore. Okay. So, death by fire, we have to remember that. Okay, so then we get another history lesson, like philosophy lesson. And this time, it's in the library. And again, it's a bit unnecessary. Like, for the whole plot, it doesn't really matter. But Ariane, like, has a fight with Miss Sophia and just storms off. So we know that Ariane and Miss Sophia don't like each other. Because Ariane is like, I would rather be stuck here forever than... I don't remember what the then was. But we, as the audience, get that she is on Daniel's side because, all subtlety aside, we know that he is the one angel who has to make a choice, right? And who refuses to. So Ariane is like, on his side. She doesn't want to pressure him into choosing a side of the war. And we're like, supportive. We love this. Also, in the same lesson, Miss Sophia recites something from, it's like, reading a paragraph from a book, and it's Latin. So she's like, who can translate this? And guess who can? Lucinda. Even though she never had Latin in school, she can just translate it off the go. So we're like, she's not like the other girls. And it's like, it doesn't really make any sense that she can do this. But, okay. Maybe it's because Latin is a holy language. Like, why can't you do this? Like, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So, after school, like after the class, Lucinda is on the way to go to the next class or something with her friends. And she's like, no, I forgot something. I have to go back. And there she overhears a conversation between Daniel and Miss Sophia. What does Miss Sophia say? She's like, she's not safe here. I don't think the incident with the statue was an accident. And I've seen him on the roof. And we're like, who's him? But we remember when the statue came crashing down on Lucinda, somebody was close to the roof. Right? Danny's like, she's like, we have to protect her. And Lucinda, instead of just asking what they're talking about, because like they didn't mention her name, but it's like the incident with the statue, like these statues don't just rain on student at this academy. They're clearly talking about her. Like if she had any sense of self-preservation, she would just ask them, like, what are they talking about? But no, she doesn't. She just gets her jumper, which she forgot, which is the whole reason why she had to go back to the classroom. She just gets her jumper and a piece of paper and rushes off. And this time, who follows her? Daniel, because he wants to take a walk with her. I was like, maybe this time would be ideal for you, Lucinda, to ask him what he was talking about. But no, Lucinda's not interested in their conversation about her safety. No. She's only interested in his little drawing. Because it turns out that he drew he drew a face, and that looks eerily like hers. She's like, what are you always drawing? Because he's always drawing in school. Like, he's always doodling. And he's like, well, it's some kind of comic that I'm drawing, kind of a story. It's like, what is the story? Lucinda's very interested. He's like, no, he doesn't want to tell her. But she's like, tell me. And then he gives in. And guess what story he tells her? It's a love story, but he doesn't know whether it has a happy ending yet. It's the story about this boy and this girl, but they can never be together because there's this curse. They meet every 17 years, fall in love, and the moment they are the happiest, she dies. Very tragic. And Lucinda's like, who cursed him? Like, she's just interested in the facts. Like this is for us, right? Because his answer is like, the devil himself. And if you're watching this, being like, okay, so she thinks he's a random teenager who's making up a random comic about another random teenager who falls in love with a teenage girl. Why would the devil himself curse this teenage boy? He gives us an explanation. The explanation is because the devil was jealous of their love. And you're like, why would the devil care for a random teenager? As I told you in the very beginning of this video, I have read the first 2 books. The only reason I did so was because my cousin had read the entire series, and she told me that in the later books, Lucinda's love interest is the devil. And I was like, that sounds intriguing. So if that is the case, if the devil cursed Daniel because he stole his girl, it suddenly makes sense, right? Like, But also, Lucinda and Lucifer. Lucinda's nickname is Luce. People call her Luce. This is also what, like, characters call Lucifer in various shows and books, right? It's always Luce, Lucy, you know? Again, doesn't matter. So she's very interested in this story. It's like, but why does she look like me? That girl. This boy is in love. It's like, this is just, I just gave her your face because you're beautiful. I'm like, Daniel, if you want to get rid of her, this is not the way to do this. But okay. So, Lucinda is like, maybe he likes me. Because that's what you think, right? Also, she's like looking at this drawing, and there's not just her face, but there's also a character on like a cobbled street. And she's like, I have never been traveling anywhere, but I remember this place. And she gives some specifics about a cafe owner who's who's gentle with his dog, but cruel to his wife. And you're like, okay, okay. Like all these heavy stuff. Okay. So Danny's like, no, you can't remember that. So he's basically gaslighting her the entire film into believing that she's just making stuff up. What a love interest. It's romance. It's love. True love. Okay. So then again, he just takes off. Like he wanted to talk to her, take a walk with her, but no. Then he just takes off. And you know who's been watching the entire scene from the roof? Cameron. Like, there's something up with him, isn't it? Next scene. It's finally Lucinda's birthday. We have to hurry up a little bit because this is taking way too long. It would be shorter to watch the film, to be honest. Anyway, so Lucinda's birthday. She opens like a little window in her bedroom door, which very much looks like a prison cell, like when you open like the window and it's like bars in front of the window. So she opens this little window and there's a cupcake with a lit candle in front of the window. It's like, oh, somebody remembered her birthday. That's lovely. Who's the only person who has access to the student files and read them? But is it Pen with a cupcake? No, it's Cam. It's like, how does Cam know about Lucinda's birthday? Well, he surely got some access to the files, I guess. Okay, so he's like, this is a little present for you. And she blows the candle, like blows out the candle. She blows out the candle, makes a wish. And he's like, what did you wish for? She's like, no, I can't tell you, otherwise it won't come true. It's like, doesn't matter because I know anyway. And she's like, how do you know? And no, you can't know. It's like, you want answers. And I'm gonna give them to you if you come and meet me tonight at 8 p.m. in the basement. And if I were her, but again, no sense of self-preservation because she's like, okay. And she goes to meet him. I was like, girl, what? He's also like, wear something nice, wear something pretty. But because he doesn't believe that she owns something pretty, his birthday present to her is a dress. Which is always very romantic in movies. Like, the love interest always guesses the size correctly, so the dress fits perfectly. And it's basically this dress, but a little grey. Is it? It doesn't matter. It's a nice dress. It's kind of nice. Also, on top of the dress was the wrapped gift that her mom left for her, which is a wristband, which is on the picture, but you can't see this, and also it's not important. You're like, okay, so the wristband is important. No, it's not. No. It's just there. Right? So, she goes to meet Cameron in the basement. Against reason. And he's sitting there on a motorcycle in his leather jacket going like, well, we're going off to something, like, I have a surprise for you. And she gets on the motorcycle. It's like, sure, let's go. She also wears his leather jacket because he's like, oh, you must be freezing, because her dress doesn't have, like, has bare shoulders, not chest. He wishes. So, bare shoulders. So he borrows, or he lends her his leather jacket, and off they drive into the night. Lucinda is the one in charge. It's like, I'm not sure if that's the best idea, but okay. Does she have a driving license anyway? But so she drives, and they're off. Like the secret, or the surprise he has for her is a concert, a rock concert, and I'm not sure if it's the band's name or the club's name, but there is this word written on the wall, and that is pandemonium. We're like, we remember who he works for, but also pandemonium in a 2009 or a 2017 film, Paranormal Romance. We're like, have we heard this before? So I'm like, where is Jace Wayland? That's a different film, he doesn't show up. So I was like, oh, poor Jace. Like, there's also a motorcycle. And we're talking about angels. But no, not Jace Wayland this time. That's sad. Okay, so they're in the club. He has promised her answers, but doesn't answer any question she asks him. Instead, he starts kissing her. And she kisses him back. So they're making out. This is what she secretly wished for. But you know what? Who doesn't like this? Daniel, who for some reason is at the club too. So he starts attacking Cam, and they just punch each other a lot. And Lucinda's like, whatever is going on between the two of you, it has nothing to do with me. And off she goes on the motorcycle in the night without the leather jacket. So it's freezing cold. And also, none of them are wearing helmets on the motorcycle. Okay, so she runs back to Penn to, you know, just cry a little bit and talk to her, like, to her friend, how such idiots these two are. Like, and Penn's like, you didn't tell me about your birthday. Penn's really hurt, and I'm like, Penn, haven't you said that you read the file? Why did you forget that? Like, she's your only friend, Penn. Wouldn't it be something to look up in the file when you make friends? You know, I don't know. Penn's like, okay, we have to figure something out. What's going on with these two? And we need Todd to do this. This is why I'm sorry he didn't get a picture, but the only reason they need Todd is because Todd is even nerdier than Penn, and he wrote an algorithm that can recognize faces if you upload a picture, like a photo in this program, and then it searches for this face on the internet. So it's basically Google Pictures. Is that? Yeah. Google Picture search. Right. So they upload a picture of Daniel from the yearbook into the program and search the internet. And it doesn't take long for a picture to come up. And what is this picture? It is the photo that we know from the memory vision hallucination scene of a guy who looks like Daniel and a girl who looks like Lucinda in, like, Victorian dresses. So, like, we've seen this before. Lucinda's like, I've seen this before. This is mysterious. So Lucinda, Penn, and Todd are sitting at this computer in the middle of the night, by the way, in the library, being like, oh, we found something. And then the camera goes a little to the side, And we see that they're not alone in the library, but there's a hooded figure who's watching them. And if you look closely, you can recognize who it is because of the hairstyle, but of course we don't yet know who it is. But this person is a bit villainous. Probably. What else is the hooded cloak for? Like, we've all seen the Daemon Targaryen memes, right? So we know this person is up to no good. Lucinda's like, I need this picture. I need a printout. Pat's like, gonna get it. So off she goes to the printer and leaves Lucinda and Todd alone. And then Lucinda again hears a sound from the library, from a different corner of the library. So she goes to investigate what sound this is. And it turns out it's a hopper, like on the floor, right? And you're like, biblical plague. And then again, what happens? The shadows appear again. These clouds in the corners. You're like, oh my god. She's like, oh my god, it's happening again. Because what happens next? The library is on fire. From 1 second to the next, the whole library is an inferno. Like, everything set ablaze. And I mean, yes, books burn, but that fast? I don't know. Lucinda hardly makes it out. She's like trapped in the flames. Todd screaming for help. Lucinda wants to get to Todd, but she can't get there. She's again trapped in the flames and faints. And the next scene is her barely conscious, barely regaining her consciousness. But we see her being carried away, her in strong arms, while the library gets smaller and smaller. So we're like, somebody's flying her out of the burning library. Who could that be? Let's guess. Okay, so obviously Lucinda needs to go to the hospital. So she's in the hospital wing for the next couple of scenes. There's a memorial service for Todd. Like, everyone is present at the service. Penn is obviously crying a lot. Miss Sophia is giving a speech about how wonderful Todd was and how sad it is that he died in this tragic accident. Molly, just annoyed to be there. She would rather shove someone into the dirt. Roland is there, but, you know, he's just like Gabrielle and Ariane. They're just there. Cam and Daniel having another staring contest. Because Daniel is sure that Cam murdered Todd. So, he grabs Cam, takes him to an abandoned classroom. It's like, why did you kill Todd? And Cam's like, I didn't kill him. Why would I do this? Daniel's like, we all know who you work for. Cam's like, what? And I think, does he say that? Wait a second. Does he say that? Yes. I think. No, maybe not. So he's like, did you kill Todd? No, I didn't. It's like, okay. Guess not then. But he's like, you tried to hurt Lucinda. It's like, why would I try to kill Lucinda when this is your job? I was like, okay, Cam, that's a bit mean. But Daniel doesn't believe Cam. He's not convinced. He still thinks Cam is the bad guy because of the leather jacket. Like, there's no other reason. It's like, why? They clearly have history, right? Something is up with these two, but we don't know what it is, and it's not important for the film, so they're just enemies for the sake of being enemies, for the sake of fighting over Lucinda. Which is interesting. I mean, it's teenage love, but to be honest, Lucinda has no personality whatsoever. Like, she's the most boring main character. She's so passive. Yeah. I'm sorry, Lucinda. I'm sure there's more to you. I hate being like, oh, the female main character is so boring and annoying, but she is. Okay, so Cam still teasing Daniel's like, are you worried about a little competition? And he's like, she would be better off with me, and this time she's different. I was like, what? This time she's different? Like, we don't see much of the past versions of Lucinda, but it's like, she must be very special. That these two are fighting so hard over her. But it's love. It's love. So it's like, my feelings are real. And I can give her so much more than you can. She deserves so much more. I was like, okay. Like, don't come close to her. He's like, or what? And then he asks, how often do you still have to see her die? Well, And when it's like, this time she's different, my question is it because she's not baptized? Is that the only thing that makes her different? If so, okay. Well, Daniel comes to visit Lucinda at the hospital bed because she's still unconscious. Like, she inhaled a lot of smoke while the library was on fire, so she needs to rest, right? So Daniel stands next to her bed. It's like, again, his repressed feelings, but also it feels a bit forced because he looks at her. He's like, I love you. I'm like, oh, well, maybe you should tell her when she's awake, because she wanted to hear that the entire film. But okay, because what happens next? He takes off. Like, this is his move. He leaves. Again. So then Lucinda wakes up. Who's by her side? Pen. The good friend that she is. Lucinda's like, what happened to Todd? Pen cries. They both cry together. And Lucinda and Pen, they cuddle up in the bed, so they comfort each other. Again, their friendship is sweet and genuine. I believe that. It's very sweet. And then Lucinda falls asleep again. And there we have kind of a dream montage scene, which is this scene. So this picture is basically the scene. Lucinda, in a grey dress, walks through the woods to meet Cam in his black t-shirt, and they start kissing. No conversation. They start kissing. And then Daniel shows up, takes her hand, leads her away from Cam. And Cam's like, don't kiss him. You die when you kiss him. But what does Lucinda do? She kisses Daniel in his white shirt. Get that? She's wearing grey, but they're wearing black and white, yeah? But what happens when she kisses him? She bursts into flames. I was like, didn't Roland say that it was just a matter of time for Lucinda to burn? I was like, because she kissed him? You know, again, feels a bit too Catholic. But okay. So Lucinda wakes up. And she leaves the bed, goes to the window, and sees somebody sitting on the roof. And this time, it's not Cam, it's Daniel. So she's like, gotta talk to him. And then there's this visual language in the film. It's well done, I think. So there's kind of a checkboard floor, right? So black and white tiles on the floor, and then 2 drops of blood fall on the tiles, because since Lucinda has inhaled all of the smoke and she is under surveillance in the hospital wing, she has one of those, what is it? Like, not infusion, is that a word? Infusion in her hand. So she takes the needle out and goes to meet Daniel on the roof. And she also brings the printout that Penn almost died over and Todd did die over. So she shows him the printout. And it's like, what's up with this? He's like, don't know what you're talking about. Again, she's like, it's enough. So she's like, I know this. I remember this day. He's like, you can't. You can't. And she's like, I can, and now I will prove it. So she gets on the railing of the roof. It's like, people have always told me that I'm crazy, but I'm not, and I will prove this. And her way of proving that she's not crazy is to jump off the roof. And you're like, it's a risk, but a risk worth taking, because who, of course, rushes to her side? Daniel. Sorry, the phone's ringing, but we'll keep on going. So Daniel rushes to her side. Obviously, he's flying, right? Because she's falling from off the roof, and he catches her in the fall and carries her back on the roof. It's very romantic. She finally is like, she knew it. She knew. Is it? Stop ringing. Sorry. Okay, so she knew. This is the climax of the film, right? She knew there was something up with him. And what is it? He has wings. His wings are basically like silver light, and while he holds her in his hands, in his arms, strong arms, she just reaches through the light beams of the wings, and she's like, oh. She has known all this time. And Daniel, who doesn't say much throughout the entire film, but when he speaks, like, his lines are the cheesiest lines ever. So he's like, it's always been you, Luce, and always will be. Yeah, peak romance. Peak romance. What else is there to say? Sorry. Okay, so, quick last 15 minutes. Like, Lucinda falling off the roof, Daniel catching her in his strong arms, flying her back to the roof. This is the climax of the film. So, basically, like, after this, there's just 15 more minutes, including the credits. So you're like, what's about to happen? Now the action takes over. So, Lucinda and Daniel are on the roof. Penn wakes up in Lucinda's hospital bed and is like, where's Lucinda? I need to talk to her. So she gets out of the bed and goes off to probably look for Lucinda. And when she leaves her room, she sees two figures in the hallway. And they're standing behind like an opaque door, talking. And she either overhears something or sees something, recognizes the silhouette maybe, because she goes like, and you're like, Penn. She finally cracked the code. She knows who's after Lucinda, who tries to murder Lucinda. She has some vital piece of information. Lucinda, on the other hand, is having her moment with Daniel, you know, her pure romantic moment. She's like basically stroking his wings, but his wings are like silver light beams. Very cute, very beautiful. So she like puts her hand through like the light beams, and Yeah, very romantic. So, again, he was like, it has always been you, Lucinda, and it always will be. So this is all she wanted to hear, right? So she's happy about that. And she wants to finally have her true love's kiss with Daniel. So they get very close to each other, and right when they're about to kiss, Cam interrupts them. And it's like, no, don't kiss him, Lucinda, you die when you do that. And Lucinda is shocked. She's like, what? Daniel looks a little guilty. And I'm like, oh, girl, you just woke up from a dream that told you that kissing Cam is safe. You've already done this. But kissing Daniel means that you would burst into flames. Right? Like, literally in the dream, after kissing Cam was like, don't kiss Daniel. And didn't we just establish that your dreams, hallucinations, visions are memories? They're all true. So why are you surprised? We don't know, but she is. And he's like, no, this time is different. And I'm like, why? Because of the baptism thing. So this time is different. He is convinced that if he kisses her now, because she isn't baptized, she won't burn. Because Catholic girls burn when they kiss the boy that they like. I was like, yeah. So this time she won't burn. But if that is the case, I'm like, then why have you been playing hard to get this whole time? We don't know. For the plot. Because, like, Cam doesn't believe this. He's like, no, don't do this. Don't risk your life. Every time you kiss him, you die. And he's like, yeah, but since you aren't baptized this time, you won't be reborn. And this breaks the cycle of the curse. And I'm like, if he knows that her not being baptized breaks the cycle, and they've had thousands of years in which they met every 17 years, fell in love, kissed, and then she died, why didn't he tell her about this way to break the curse in the first place? Like, why didn't he just, I don't know, stalk her reborn self to make sure that she wasn't baptized? Or why didn't she just excommunicate herself? Like, why didn't she just leave the church? Maybe it's just fate. Like, the parents had to make this decision and he didn't find her or something. I don't know. But the fact that she isn't baptized, he thinks, is what makes it different this time, and it's safe to kiss him. Right? Cam, on the other hand, is very worried because she isn't baptized, which means that she is not reborn when she dies. So he's like, don't kiss him, don't kiss him. So they basically start talking over Lucinda's head, and their voices just blend out, right? So they just mute out, while she has her clear moment in which she understands what she truly wants. She turns to Cameron. It's like, I know what I want. And then she kisses Daniel. And it's like, well, it's a gamble. Because they do kiss. It's, Cam's like, no, trying to stop this from happening. But they kiss quite a while and nothing happens. And when she, ends the kiss, she looks Daniel in the eye and says, I'm still here. And I'm like, so you didn't know this was going to happen? And you were willing to die for a kiss? honestly, like, also, would this concept still work today? Like, not just today, but how did it work in the first place? Because, like, if they have known for thousands of years that a kiss would kill her, why didn't they figure something else out to do? He can touch her, which he has proven quite often. It's like, be creative. Just don't kiss. I mean, if that's what kills you, just don't do it. Well, I guess there's a lesson in this, right? But, like, it feels a little Twilight-ish. Again, but okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so, now that she's more or less safe, because the cycle is broken, Daniel's rather happy, Lucinda's rather happy, but Cam's like, no. He didn't break the cycle for you, Lucinda. He broke it for himself. Because now Lucifer knows where you are, and he's after you. And I'm like, how does Lucifer know where she is? He can only know that if somebody told him, right? So, why didn't you stop somebody from reporting to Lucifer? And why is Lucifer interested in her? We don't know, because Lucifer is the original love interest, maybe? I don't know. So, he's, like, Daniel is still the bad guy, because he kissed you, even though he wasn't sure that it wouldn't kill you. It's like, well, I mean, fair point, but okay. Yeah, sorry, not Team Daniel here. But also, like, Cam is so ridiculous. Doesn't matter. Like, it... Okay. So, he's like, Lucifer is coming after you, Lucinda. We have to hide you. And now I have to consult my notes so that I get everything right, okay? Yeah, okay. So, Daniel's like, well, we have to hide you. So he just snatches Lucinda up and flies her to the ground. And who waits on the school grounds? Miss Sophia. And he's like, stay with Miss Sophia, because he's still convinced that Cam is the villain and that Cam would try to murder Lucinda even though he just tried to save her life. So he's like, Cam is the bad guy, and he wants to fight Cam. So the two of them go up into the skies with their wings. We know that Roland and Molly are also there, and they are the bad guys because their wing color is like orange-ish, like Hellfire, right? So like, okay, so these are the bad guys. I don't know where these two are, but I would suppose they're also there to fight off Roland and Molly, so that, you know, it's equal. Because Daniel and Cam, they're basically punching each other in the face the whole time. They're having their huge fight. It's like this baseball scene from Twilight, but up in the sky and nobody's playing baseball. They're just punching each other. So you're like, Lucinda, who's with Miss Sophia on the ground, she's like, they're all angels. Miss Sophia is like, and like, oh, Lucinda, like, yeah, yes, they're all angels. Yeah, okay. Cam and Daniel fighting. Daniel shouting at Cam, I won't let you take her to Lucifer. And Cam is like, I no longer serve him. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, why didn't you just say this a little earlier? Like, when these two had their little conversation in the abandoned classroom, where Daniel was like, did you kill Todd? And he was like, no. Why didn't they also talk about their alliances and their loyalty? Like, conversations, like communication. Oh, well, so somebody left out some piece of information for the plot. It's like, okay, so he's like, I no longer serve him. And yeah, good to know. So what is up with Cam? We don't know. And then something happens. Because Miss Sophia, who's guarding Lucinda, keeping her safe, can't believe this. There's another call. I'm sorry, this is the messiest video ever because I keep being interrupted. So, I'm lost where I am, but this is the last minutes of the film, so bear with me. Miss Sophia, who's keeping Lucinda safe, what is she doing? She's pulling over a hood. And you're like, Miss Sophia and the mischief hood. She's the villain. Who would have thought? Like, who would have thought that? Did you guess that? Well, honestly, it wasn't too hard to guess, but because, like, when Lucinda mentions that she's unbaptized, Miss Sophia was like, okay. She was plotting and scheming. And you're like, Okay, so these two, again, they're fighting. Like, we're cutting between Miss Sophia and Lucinda and Daniel and Cam fighting. So Cam is like, I'm not trying to kill Lucinda. And Daniel's like, who's then? We know. Penn knows. Lucinda doesn't. Lucinda, yeah, I mean, it's not her fault she doesn't get this, but she and Miss Sophia rush back into the school, and for some reason they want to get up the staircase. Like, they want to climb the stairs. But Penn rushes in and is like, Lucinda, no, she's... And then she's cut off. Literally. Because Miss Sophia has a razor blade hidden in her sleeve and just cuts Penn's throat. It's like... Well, she just revealed herself to be the villain to Lucinda. Yeah, poor Penn, bleeding out on the staircase. Lucinda can't believe this. Miss Sophia, she screams for Penn, and I guess because they're angels, Daniel doesn't only have wings, but also supernatural hearing, because he hears Lucinda's screams from where he is in the skies, and flies back to her, right? Lucinda runs up the stairs to run from Miss Sophia. Miss Sophia is running after her, but Lucinda is faster. And there is Daniel, who just crashes through the ceiling window to protect Lucinda with his wings from Miss Sophia. And you're like, okay. So we know everything that's up. But why is she doing this? Right? And Daniel's like, what? Why, Sophia? Why? So Sophia gives us an evil villain monologue. And she's like, well, she's sick of Lucinda. Have we heard this before? So she's so sick of Lucinda being the center of the universe and of Daniel not picking a side in the war. Because he has to. It's time now. And he's like, but Sophia, you're a loyal servant of God. And she's like, yes, and as a loyal servant, I have to do what a servant has to do. So her logic is that if she kills Lucinda, who isn't baptized, she won't be reborn. Which means that Daniel has lost the love of his life of eternity, like his one true love, and that basically pressures him into choosing a side in the war. That's the whole point. So it's like, what kind of angel is he? Is he so important in the war? Like, we don't know. Maybe he's not like the other angels. I don't know. So she's like, no, you would have to choose a side. And Lucinda doesn't understand. She's like, why did you kill Penn then? And that is a justified question, because, I mean, yeah, Penn just revealed Miss Sophia to be the villain, but so did she herself by killing Penn. It's like, it is a bit unnecessary, but it also proves how evil and vile Miss Sophia is. She doesn't mind killing teenagers. She's killed Trevor, she's killed poor Todd, who doesn't have a picture, and now she's killed Penn to kill another teenager. And it's like, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But even though she's gone through all the efforts to kill everyone around Lucinda, now that Lucinda was a bit quicker at running up the staircase, she doesn't even attempt to kill Lucinda again. She's like, she has a razor blade. She could at least try to throw it at Lucinda or something. But no, because Daniel has his like arms around her, his wings around her. It's like, no, she can't get at her anymore. And then she calls the black clouds that we have learned through Daniel that they are called announcers, right? And she just vanishes through these clouds. So all the clouds that have, like all the shadows that have appeared throughout the entire film before to Lucinda have been orchestrated by Miss Sophia. I don't know what kind of being she is that she can just disappear in this cloud. Like, is she an angel? Is she human? I don't know. That is not clarified. I don't know. But she's gone. Without having attempted, at least, to kill Lucinda. So I'm like, mission failed, Sophia. Like, she didn't try hard enough. If she had tried, she could have. Also, like, why didn't she just poison her? If that's the whole point, wait. We don't know. Anyway, also, like, why did she try to throw a statue at her? To make it look like an accident, yeah, but... Okay. So, Lucinda, even though Miss Sophia has just revealed her entire motivation, it's like, why did she kill Penn? And Daniel comes to the rescue. He's like, Sophia thought that if she kills you, I will choose a side. And for some reason, Sophia is very sure that he would pick God's side in the war. I guess because he's one of the good ones. And not one of the evil batch here. But okay. Also, risky gamble. I'm not like, the whole point is that he didn't choose a side because he chose love. He chose Lucinda over the war. She's more important than heaven and hell combined. Which makes sense, right? Okay. So she's like, she thought that I would pick a side now. And now, because you're baptized, when you die, you won't be reborn. That's sad. But also, again, Penn is just dead on the ground. But who come to escort Penn to heaven? The good angels. So Gabrielle and Ariane fly to Penn and promise Lucinda that they will take care of her, aka guide her to heaven. And I'm like, if they can take her to heaven, like, can they go into heaven? Like, aren't they part of the fallen? Like, I thought the whole point is that they cannot go back to heaven or hell. Like, doesn't matter because it's only one more minute. So, the last seconds of the film, Daniel is like, I have friends somewhere. He doesn't tell us why. He's like, there is a place where I have friends who can protect you, but we have to hurry. And I would be suspicious, because how does Daniel, the one who's responsible for all the fallen angels being exiled from heaven or hell, how does he have friends? Like, aren't they mad at him? Like, if I were Molly, I wouldn't be mad at Lucinda, I'd be mad at him. But, so he has friends. And I'm like, what kind of friends? Like, where are they? But also, like, all of the fallen angels, like, they can't all be teenagers, right? So they probably hide somewhere else, because hiding all the other grown-ups in the school would have been more suspicious. Like, I don't know. Okay, so before they finally take off, Lucinda feels the need to express herself. So she's like, my whole life, I never felt like I belonged somewhere. I never felt right. But now I know where I belong. And it's with you. And because the cycle is broken, they can kiss again. Good for them. So they're having a little snogging time again. And Daniel says, again, like, his lines in the film are not, they're very sparse. Like, they're not too many. But it's like, what he says, because he's like, it will always be you, Lucinda. Always. And then they fly off into the sky. Wind in their hair. And that's it. That's the film. So, again, I haven't watched the show, but I'm quite intrigued, to be honest. Maybe I'm gonna watch this soon. If you have watched the show, let me know whether you prefer the film or the show, if you've read the books. I need to know about Lucifer. What's up with them? Like, who's Endgame? Like, I don't know, but I need to know. What is it with Cam? Where are Cam, Roland, and Molly going? I thought he wasn't working for Lucifer anymore, so where is Cam? What is he doing? What's his thing? Yeah. So that's what I want to know. And if you want to, like, stick around for some more trashy television, please subscribe. I have some book plot breakdowns planned, but they take significantly longer than a video like this. So that would take a while. And yeah, I will see you with another film, hopefully soon. Goodbye.